What do we actually mean by a behaviorally informed organization? And here's a simple checklist from our book in terms of what we use as a rule of thumb to talk about a behaviorally informed organization. It's an organization that understands that its external and internal stakeholders are humans and not econs. So again, back to the language from Nudge, we should assume that our customers are human. We should assume they forget. We should assume that they are blinded by complexity, that they won't digest too much information. And not just our external stakeholders, but also our internal stakeholders. So when we design human resource processes, we should also keep in mind that our employees are also human, that in fact, the people who are running our behavioral science units are also human. And I think that aspect of understanding that our stakeholders are human is critical. Obviously, it knows what it means to be human. It designs for humans. So when it designs processes, it assumes what we call kind of lack of rationality or some of the basic psychological properties that we can attribute to humans. The behaviorally informed organization is evidence driven. This is key. Because one of the big ideas from behavioral science is context dependence, and the idea that every context brings with it a new set of circumstances, and unless you collect evidence that your intervention, that your program, that your product is going to work in that context, then in fact it might be futile. So a behaviorally informed organization is evidence driven. It understands that evidence is much more than just data. Data tells you what happened. Evidence tells you why that thing happened. It believes in the test, learn, and adapt approach, the notion of trying, continuously learning and adapting products and services. And then finally, it reduces sludge in the system. It tries to be human compliant. I keep saying this to people I speak to. Organizations spend a lot of time and energy and resources in order to be compliant with the law. If we only spent a small fraction of that trying to be compliant with human behavior, I think organizations will make a massive leap in terms of being behaviorally informed. My final thought for now, which is what can behavioral insights do within organizations? And I'm going to just quickly list four. We talk about some of these roles in the book. Behavioral scientists could be a problem solver. We've seen this. I think the first decade of behavioral science was a lot about this, right? I have a wonderful product, people aren't buying it. That's a problem. Can I solve it? But you could also think about the behavioral scientist as an auditor. And this is where things like sludge audits come in handy. Can we proactively identify potential problems before they even become problems? We could think about the behavioral scientist as a designer, where in fact the behavioral scientist is actively embedded within design teams in organizations, so that in theory, if you have a behaviorally informed design, then in fact you shouldn't have a last mile problem because you've hopefully already anticipated some of the challenges. And then more generally, could we think about the behavioral scientist as a strategist? Could the behavioral science approach drive the fundamental operations of the organization? So those are four kind of roles that we identify for behavioral science. And again, a lot of companies start at the top, move towards the bottom over time, but we think it's a helpful way of thinking about what the capabilities of behavioral science are.